Get your copy today. Visit singpowerupcoach.com now.
Do you want to better understand and embrace neurodiversity? I'm Dr. Lori Noto, with over 30 years of experience working with diverse and unique individuals. Through my consulting and purpose-driven life coaching, I focus on empowering individuals with disabilities. My passion is advocacy, providing the tools for neurodiverse individuals to thrive and feel included in classrooms, workplaces, and communities. Unlock the potential of possibility, power, and purpose. Connect with me today at notoholisticconsulting.com.
Inside the Mind of Hiring with me, Dr. Mickey Feinberg, is a must-listen for hiring managers, HR pros, and job seekers. Tune in to Transformation Talk Radio, the first and third Tuesday at 11 to discover the psychology of making smarter hiring decisions that shape successful teams and organizations. Dr. Mickey and expert guests will disclose the full hiring journey. For more info, visit deltaconsultants.com.
Do you want to become a host? Start your own podcast to inspire, persuade, and influence others on what you're passionate about? At the Transformation Network, we can help make your talk radio dreams happen. Let's take your hopes, dreams, and passions and put them on air today. Email us at host@transformationtalkradio.com to learn more about becoming a host of your very own show.
Let your dreams and not your doubts drive your decisions. Often, like 99.9% of the time, it will require you to stretch yourself into unknown territory. But that, my friend, is how you grow. You are making decisions all day long. Decisions about what to eat, what to wear, who to call. Decisions about how to spend your time and who to spend it with. Or how to spend your money and what to spend it on. If just for today, you stopped before every decision and checked in with yourself and let your dreams lead the way, what would change and what could be possible for you? I'm Beth Larson, host of the Flourish Frequency Show. Join me every third Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, or visit my website, BethLarsonCoaching.com, for archive shows and more information to tune you into your personal Flourish frequency.
Erica Gifford Mills has written the book that is about to change your life. If you yearn to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully, and to finally let go of whatever no longer serves you, then Erica's book, The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go, is for you. Readers will learn about how their values affect every aspect of their lives, why self-care and self-love is a critical first step to stopping limiting beliefs and negative thoughts in their tracks. The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go teaches readers who are ready to unlearn unhealthy patterns to set, communicate, and keep their boundaries, to live with passion on purpose, and to create goals with the intention of putting them into action. Once you pick up your own copy along with the companion workbook, you'll be one step closer to being fully equipped, empowered, and enlightened on your path to be yourself for yourself. If you're ready to plant powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go, visit GetRootedRadio.com.
Are you ready to change and grow? Wherever you are in your spiritual journey, I'm here to help. I'm Tristan Stoicki, a shaman, astrologer, and host of Musings and Modalities. Tune in every second and fourth Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific as I cover a variety of topics and share techniques to work with astrology, your birth chart, past life healing, and more. Please share this show and subscribe for more guidance from me, your pragmatic shaman bestie, at musingsandmodalities.com.
Have you always felt like the black sheep, cycle breaker, or parentified eldest daughter? The one who never felt like enough? It's not because you're broken, it's because you were shaped by a toxic family system that taught you to question your worth. The Self-Worth Blueprint for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers shows you exactly how that conditioning took hold and how to release it. Through powerful mindset shifts, somatic healing practices, and an interactive workbook, you'll rebuild your self-worth from the inside out. Visit blacksheepexperience.com to enroll now.
Hello, beautiful. In a world that can sometimes feel so
There are shows with psychics.
And there are shows with doctors.
But there's no show like The Psychic and the Doc.
Your practical paranormal power unleashed.
This show synthesizes the talents of world-class medium Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, psychic explorer,
and street smart spiritualist, behavioral psychologist, Dr. Pat Basili. All subjects are on the table and no topic is taboo. Inspiration, insight,
action, and fun as Mark Anthony connects callers with loved ones in spirit.
In tandem with Dr. Pat's fresh, no-nonsense, street smart, intuitive insights. And she is hilarious.
Extraordinary problems
require extraordinary solutions, which may come from this side
or the other side. This is The Psychic
and the Doc, and it starts now.
Hey everybody, we got a really hot and cold one for you tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. I want to remind everybody, it is a live call-in show. It is not an encore show. Well, unless you're listening to this tomorrow, then it is an encore show. Okay, I got to walk that back a little bit, I guess. Thank you for joining us here. We're talking about navigating the fire and water alchemy of the summer solstice, and I want to introduce you to my esteemed colleague. You know, the universe has a way of putting people together. And there's a reason he's wearing blue and I'm wearing red. I mean, you got it from the title. But when you think about Mark and you think about what Mark has done, stepping out in the world, he's called a psychic lawyer. I mean, who doesn't want a psychic lawyer? I wish my lawyer was more psychic. Okay, that's another show. But he's also an award-winning author, Evidence of Eternity, Never Letting Go. And we're going to talk about the most popular book he has right now. But more than that, when you step out into the world, and you step out into the world with a giant yes. And we're seeing this, Mark. Jessica and I and Linda are seeing this. There is a power to a yes. And this show topic today for all of us is a push and pull. It is the thing that we look at in the world because this broadcast talks about, are you feeling completely wired and deeply emotional or fiercely motivated, but strangely exhausted? Oh my gosh, I had a couple of calls this week, and I'm telling you, I was talking to people that fit this upside down and crazy. Well, you're feeling the frequency in the sky. And I think, Mr. Anthony, you want to tell us a little bit about frequency?
Yes, frequency. My latest book, The Afterlife Frequency, I go very deeply into how spirit communication is an alignment of our brainwave frequency with the vibrational frequency of spirits, the other side, which I refer to as both the collective consciousness and the afterlife frequency. And when you study quantum physics, everything is frequency. You know, Dr. Pat, I just returned from the Society for Scientific Exploration's 44th conference in Denver, and I was honored to be one of the keynote speakers. And it was really cool because everybody was talking about frequency, and it was so enjoyable to talk to quantum physicists who are completely on board with what you and I do with consciousness and frequency alignment. That also ties into this show. You know, fire and water, if you look at them from a frequency standpoint, because fire and water both have frequencies. Fire, a much higher frequency because, you know, it's burning, it's consuming. Fire is essentially how something is oxidized. In other words, when you take matter and you convert it to oxygen, it burns. Water has a lower, denser frequency, but it is I'd like to say calmer, but having lived on the ocean my entire life, the ocean can be calm, but it can also be the very opposite of calm. But they're two different frequencies, and they're also very powerful frequencies. The ancients believed there were four elements to existence: earth, water, fire, and air. And tonight we're taking two of those, fire and water, the two that are the most unlike each other, because water can put out fire, but fire can also cause water to create steam, which is turning it into a form of air. So this show is one of contrast. We just came through the summer solstice, And the summer solstice this year happened to coincide with Father's Day. So for all you folks out there who are missing your dad, call into the show, 1-800-930-2819. And hopefully your dad in spirit will step forward. And, Dr. Pat and I had dedicated our lives in the service of other people. That's one of the reasons we do this show. And Dr. Pat, you were saying like things that bring people together. I mean, you and I, we have a lot in common, but we also are very, very different.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this show so much different than anything else that is on air. And we are here for all of you. So 1-800-930-2819. All right, Dr. Pat.
All right, listen.
The theme of tonight's show is your brainchild. Let us have it.
Let's just give some facts. I like to start out with facts, then we can go to fiction. I love that. So this is when I said this is the frequency you're feeling, everybody. So look, we're standing in the immediate wake of a summer solstice. I like to call it a wake. We know what a wake is, right? You get a wave that comes in, all that. But we're witnessing a rare, intense cosmic collision. Chinese astrology, we're at the peak of the solar peak of the year of the fire horse. Oh, it's hot. It's getting hot in here. We should play the clip from Nelly, but YouTube will probably take me down. And then it's giving the most expansive yang fire energy we've ever seen in generations. And I'm going to give you an example tonight of how it is showing up in the most horrific way. And it's not about politics. So don't turn us off. We're not talking politics. No. But, look at the sky today. The sun is the emotional center of Cancer. Uh-oh. Are we cleaning out our closets, Linda? Yes, we are. And to the moon, today's moon is locked into a deep magnetic Scorpio. This is the ultimate spiritual alchemy, fire and water. But you know what? Right now, the cosmos is mixing oil and water, or the fire and water effect. So what are we talking about? It's a peak of a solar flare. Oh my gosh, do you want to talk about that? That's another show. It's supercharged by the year of the fire horse. But under the sky today, the sun in Cancer, moon in Scorpio, it's literally a cosmic pressure cooker. And do you want to hear where it showed up in the public and our pop culture yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
Indiana fever. Oh my God, I was just going to be nasty. I shouldn't do that. Indiana fever.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Oh my God, I can't. Linda's really hooked on this KTV, Keep the Vision TV YouTube gentleman that does the show. He's about as real as you get, and he loves Caitlin Clark. But it showed up yesterday, and it showed up in a most interesting way. Because you know what happens with fire? Fire will burn off. It will burn things off, Mark. You know, in indigenous cultures, and you can speak to this, in indigenous cultures, fire is a cleansing energy. So is water. In Catholicism, I'm telling you, I feel like I got to go do an exorcism if I walk into a Catholic church and I don't do the holy water. And I'm not a fully practicing Catholic. But there are things we learn about. This mixing of oil, water, or fire and water, this is at the peak. So here's what happened. Yesterday, I witnessed something I personally never thought I'd see in women's sports. And we have seen some BS in women's sports across the board. We've seen it. We've seen the battle between, what's her name, Datralova and Chrissy. We've seen those things. Healthy competition, but utmost respect. We've seen the Tiger Woods in the world hit the market, and people are like, we don't like this dude. He's too good, until they started to reap the benefit of the money he was bringing in, and then everybody loved Tiger, right?
Right.
We've seen different sports with women, but we haven't seen what we're seeing in the WNBA. And yesterday, we saw something that every woman on the planet should be crying out to stop.
And what is that?
Yesterday, and I got to tell you, I use an analogy. Have you ever heard of the Genovese syndrome?
I have not.
Genovese the scenario, we all study it in psychology. Genevieve is the story of a woman basically getting beat to death in the streets of New York with all the neighbors glaring out of the window looking at her.
I do. We study that in law school too. Yeah, go ahead.
You have to study that. Now, I don't know about the legal part of that, but I will tell you. But you know the story.
Yes.
When I watched Caitlin Clark not knocked down, get hit wrongly more than once, but the second time, where she was targeted, my opinion, folks, I have no facts and I have no proof, targeted to a groin injury. When I saw her go down by, I'm almost afraid to mention her name, but I'll come back to that, who's now suspended for 1 game, which is an atrocity because, you know, the commissioner of the NFL would have come in and he'd have made that 16 weeks. Cunningham got a $20,000 fine for pointing. But this Alyssa Thomas, what she did, Clark goes to the ground. She is on the floor, goes to the ground. The woman pinches her under her arm, puts a knee in her groin while she's on the floor, and a fist to her neck with 2 other Phoenix players around her. Now, that's part of the energy of this. What's the contrary energy? The contrary energy is justice. Does it spark justice? You see, fire and water are strange bedfellows.
Yes.
But they have been around longer than they need each other. They actually do need each other. But here we are in a time, I professionally coach women's softball to championships. I coach in my sport. And I will tell you, what I saw yesterday could only get worse by the systematic, I would say, destruction of Caitlin Clark and her brand. Why? How do you do a 30-year commemorative and put Beckers on there and put Cunningham on there and leave out Caitlin Clark? So it's gotten beyond the chit-chat for me, but it is fire and water. How full is Caitlin Clark's water tank? Does she have enough for the fire? Why am I a little shocked about this? Because this is a perfect example of the shift in energy that started yesterday. You know, this could have happened any other day, but it didn't. Now, many other events have happened under this energy. Bay of Pigs, I think, was one of them. Remember that scenario back then in them days with the Beatles and oh my gosh, Lord of mercy.
Yes.
But here's the message that comes out of this. Each of us has our own Caitlin Clark moments where we feel like we're on the ground. We feel like maybe we're being stepped on. Maybe there's some bully. One commentator called her a thug. On top of us. None of our teammates are coming to pull her off, which I was shocked. I mean, what do they go on, a snooze alert?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. But will it be the thing that gives the WNBA the fire? Will the water of Caitlin Clark give the NBA the fire it needs to become epic greatness? Because it's all there. But it cannot be there with the leadership it has. And I know you have seen this in law. I'm preaching to the choir with you because in the legal system, some of the things you've talked about on air, you have seen fire and water at its best and worst.
Oh, yeah. No, you mentioned something, fire and water. 59 years ago today, the Beatles performed All You Need Is Love live on a show called Our World. And what made this historic, aside from the fact it's a great song, was it was the first satellite-linked television show in history, and it aired in 25 countries to 400 million people simultaneously. That was huge. And talk about fire and water. It was 1967. And the Vietnam War was in full swing. The country was horribly divided. And the Beatles gave us a song of hope. And it's interesting because even though it was a John Lennon song, and the Beatles did it, and Paul, Paul and George and Ringo contributed to it. But years later, in an interview, Paul McCartney was asked if the Beatles had a message, if they had one message for the world, what was it? And without a moment's hesitation, Paul McCartney said, "All you need is love." He said, yes, I mean, obviously you need money to put a roof over your head and all this. He said, but it's all about love. And what a beautiful message. And that message 59 years ago is as relevant today as it was then. Because once again, our country is horribly divided. There's all sorts of competing interests. There's all types of turmoil. But in the end, all you need is love. I don't care who you are, what political side of the fence you are, what religious belief or non-belief. What does everybody really want in this world? You want to be loved. You want to come home to someone who loves you. You want your children to feel loved. You want to live in a safe place. You want to feel love, not fear. And fire and water, maybe in this, fire burns with passion. So love can be fire, but love can also be water. It can be very tranquil. And love is a form of energy. And this type of energy has both properties of fire and water. So I'll tell you, Dr. Pat, you picked the absolute best theme for tonight's show.
Let me ask you a question. Think about what happens when fire and water meet. Let's stay with that for a minute. Okay. They are unbalanced, right? If they are unbalanced, let's just say if they are unbalanced, because that's what we're feeling right now, okay? The fire completely evaporates the water, or the water completely extinguishes the fire, one or the other. That's just, what did you call it? I don't know what that is. That feels like burnout, anxiety, emotional paralysis. But when they are balanced perfectly, Mark, they create steam. They enact raw pressure that drives an engine forward. This solstice isn't about choosing action over emotion. It isn't about, using the blazing fire of your passion to heat up the deep waters of your intuition. It's about action guided by soul. And that is why I'm talking about the WNBA, because I'm saying, where is your soul, people? Where is it? Where's the soul? Now, there are things we have to do, Mark. You and I have done them all our life. Somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, oh, I didn't know you, I didn't know. I Googled you. Okay. What'd you find? I said, I didn't Google you with the show. I just Googled you because I wanted to see where you went to school and la, 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 la. I said, I noticed you have 2 award-winning papers. One is on leadership. How did you learn leadership? Where did you learn that from? Do you know what I said to them, Mark?
What?
Because I don't know how to answer that question in any other way. I said, okay, my style of leadership is this. I didn't learn leadership in a classroom. I learned it sleeping in places no 17-year-old should ever have to sleep. I learned it from a young stepmother who stood between me and a world that too often mistook different for less than. I learned it from junior high school teacher who quietly told me, I know you're different, but not less than. I learned it at Bell Labs, where conversations over bagels with brilliant scientists taught me that the greatest discoveries happen where disciplines meet. I learned it during years of doctoral research, where I discovered that trust, leadership, and human relationships are governed by invisible agreements as powerful as any written contract. And for more than 2 decades, I have continued to learn behind a microphone, listening to thousands of conversations. And Mark, you are one of them. That's why we're here.
Yes.
About courage, purpose, failure, resilience. And when I began watching women's basketball, I was witnessing the emergence of an extraordinary athlete. We all have. We saw the Michael Jordans. We saw how leadership addressed Magic Johnson. But what I didn't realize was that I was also witnessing one of the compelling leadership cases of my lifetime, Mark. I started to write. I wrote 15 chapters about this because I couldn't get it out of my system after that game yesterday. And I'd say that this book, it's about proving a point. I call it a book. It's about asking better questions. It's an invitational look, an extraordinary moment through the lens of leadership, psychology, organizational behavior, human performance, human potential, and to discover what those perspectives might teach us about ourselves. Because the greatest lessons are rarely confined to one game, one season, or one organization. And I went on to say, look, when we observe and observe from ourselves, they reveal something timeless about what it means to lead and what it means to become fully human. Now, I don't think I would have got there if I didn't watch the movie Project Hail Mary. So I just want to say that in retrospect. But this is the magic that happens when you put things together and they create steam. That's what happens. But sometimes water says, I've had enough. Sometimes water says, you're not going to burn up my forest, people. Sometimes water says, you're not going to continue to dump your waste in my ocean. Sometimes water says, you better not continue to blatantly harm another person. And we're seeing that across the board. You talked about, before we went on air, we were talking about what's going on, around the world. Don't you think it's fire and water?
It is, and it always has been. That's the thing about living in the material world, is there's this constant clash. People want peace, yet we often, almost always obtain that which we least desire, which is the fire. And striking the balance when the water and the fire meet. And it doesn't have to be military conflict. It can be the turmoil in your family, within yourself. And it's all about finding that balance. And that's one of the reasons Dr. Pat and I are here, is to help everybody who is struggling. Now, we don't have all the answers, and spirits do, but that doesn't mean we're always going to understand everything that they transmit to you through me. And that's why, I always tell people when I do a reading for them, if it doesn't make sense right away, let it settle in, and it can resonate with you. I do want to invite everyone to sign up for my newsletter, which is go to afterlifefrequency.com. On Saturday, July 18th, I'm going to have an online light circle limited to 6 people each. We just announced that. And if you go to my website, to the calendar of events, you can go ahead and reserve your ticket for that. And then toward the end of July, the week of July, I think it's 23rd, I'll be in Houston. And I'll be at Body, Mind, and Soul conducting spirit communication events. So you can find out about all of that by signing up for my newsletter at afterlifefrequency.com. Now, Dr. Pat has a website, which, is it still under construction, unstuckable.com?
No, Unstuckable is up, but we're going to do a whole lot more. I mean, Mark, I had an epiphany. And the epiphany is called Embrace the Pressure Cooker. And I love what I've been doing with the network, but it's now time for me to come out and speak out about things that are important to me, that help me be the person I am today, that many, many people who influence me get there. So unstuckable.com is definitely the place to go to stay on top of things.
All right. Hey, how about we take a short break, then we'll come back and this is a call-in show, 1-800-930-2819. Dr. Pat and I are here for you. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. I'm Mark Anthony, author of The Afterlife Frequency. But don't expect a dry treatise. This book educates, entertains, and reads like a juicy novel.
Joining us today is psychic lawyer Mark Anthony. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I don't think there's another person on the planet anywhere who shares this guy's resume.
He's been on Coast to Coast, the radio show with me for years. He's a psychic lawyer, but he's the real deal.
This book also provides hope in coping with grief, crime, murder, PTSD, and survivor's guilt. The Afterlife Frequency teaches you my 4-step raft technique. Recognize spirit contact, accept it as real, feel it without fear, and trust the message.
Hey everybody, oh my goodness, we have got talk radio for all of it.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, you know, without people like you there to like really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
What if your training isn't enough? The Multicultural Mindset Podcast invites counselors and therapists to unlearn the one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't cultural competence. It's a way of being that brings racialized experiences from the margins to the very center of care. Let's stop pathologizing Black pain and start challenging the system that created the bias in the first place. Visit newseasons.training to subscribe.
Want a speaker who can inspire your audience and keep them laughing and learning all in the same moment? I'm Erica Gummany, and that's exactly what I hope to do when blending personal stories, deeper spiritual insights, and practical wisdom with a whole lot of humor that keeps everyone engaged. My intention is to create safe, transformative spaces where real growth and connection happen. Book me to speak or facilitate something amazing at yourpivotalpoint.com.
Tune in to Break Free and Trust, a redesign for living, with me, Jacqueline.
And me, Chris, on Transformation Talk Radio, every second and fourth Monday at 3 p.m.
Learn to connect with your intrinsic power to grow and to heal, and how to laugh at your own humanness and not take life too seriously.
Witness the field of potential that arises when you take personal responsibility and become the divine creator in your own life.
Visit theway-healing.com for more information.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to walk you through this. This is a great show. It's Navigating the Fire and Water Alchemy of the Summer Solstice. Now, those of you that have not seen the movie Project Hail Mary, it is now streaming on one of your paid subscription places. I think that's MGM. I watched it 2 times, then watched it with Linda. And I actually saw Linda smile through a movie. That is like, oh, the earth stopped moving. But there was so many takeaways from it. It clearly was about fire, and then it clearly was about water. And I can't give away the movie, but part of the theory of the movie was there was something literally eating away at the sun. See, that's what we're talking about today. You see, Mark, I'm going to lay a couple of things out and let's talk about them. The first one that they point to handle the fire water alchemy is to embrace the pressure cooker. Why? Because look, this is a rare cosmic collision of peak solar fire and intense emotional water. So this is a pressure cooker. You can either resist it or embrace it, Mark. What do you think?
Well, I always think embrace, because, resisting is another form of avoidance and denial and conflict. And so when we have problems, when we have dilemmas, I mean, the natural inclination for a lot of people is to resist it, to avoid it. But how do you vanquish a fear? You have to confront it. So I'm always in the embrace camp, but there's been plenty of times when I've wanted to avoid things.
But it's part of the way you'd have to navigate this, because resistance is futile.
Yes.
But the second thing that's really important is you have to create steam, but not burnout. This is the challenge of a lifetime, isn't it? You can create steam, so you don't let the fire evaporate your peace, Mark, to your point.
Yes. And that's like, what's that expression? Don't let yesterday take up too much of today. And we all do this. We think about injustices from our past, how we were treated, conflicts we have, and that's that fire. Okay, and it's burning away, but there's nothing we can do about what has already happened. So you got to hit it with some water, quench that, and focus on what's going on now. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, my life is screwed up because blah 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 blah." It's like, well, hold on. How about learning from what happened in the past and applying it to today so you won't recreate the same mistakes you've made before? And I think that's also part of the fire and the water. Fire and water gives us a good analogy because we're always going to be facing something like this. And it may be what some people consider to be minor, or it could be something that could be really major. But you have to look at it from your own perspective. What other people may think is irrelevant to you is extremely significant. And also worrying about what other people think, that's a fire that chews up your peace. It steams your water. Don't let other people walk through your feelings with their dirty feet.
That's right. And you know what I love about what you talked about? Here's the trick. And I don't know, Caitlin Clark's probably not listening to this, but this is really the essence of what she gets to choose. One, you don't let the fire evaporate your peace, but you don't let the water drown your drive. See? You got to keep that in balance. I've been through that. You've been through that. Both of us has been through that. Anybody that owns a business or starts a business or starts a brand, they get this one way or the other. But the bottom line with that message, Mark, is balance them to create unstoppable forward motion and momentum. And I wish I was Caitlin Clark's coach, because this is what I would coach her to do, despite absolutely poor coaching. I have never seen, well, no, I have seen worse than that. But the bottom line is an entire organization that is so systemically toxic, and an organization of players who should embrace this woman the way that they did Tiger Woods after they got seriously mad about all the attention he was getting. Because there's a benefit for everybody if you just take a moment to be grateful for it, people. Now, the next one's all yours. This one I find important. It's the time to let your soul guide your actions. See, this explosive yang energy, fire horse, take bold action, it relies entirely on the Scorpio moon intuition to choose the right direction. You know who got in sports recently? I would call it borderline crazy criticism. Horse racing. Going to switch. Horse racing. Kentucky Derby. Preakness, Belmont. The horse that won the Derby also won the last race. Why didn't they win the Triple Crown? Why? Because their leadership, in my mind, was doing exactly what you and I are talking about. They balanced it. They made a decision to take this amazing horse. By the way, I thought this horse could win the Triple Crown. But they didn't want to risk it. Some people say that was a lack of courage. The trainer was a woman, is a woman. There have been analogies that men would not have done that. Male trainer, not Dr. Pat and not Mark. I'm just saying this is the little hubbub that people post on things. But she made a decision with the owners. And they didn't race the horse. In the second race, they rested the horse. That's balance. And they brought the horse back to crush it. So what is the message? The message is when your soul guides your action. That had to be soul guided action because that was not the popular decision to make, Mark. You know, that Triple Crown is like a big deal. You know that.
Yes.
That's a big deal. But they didn't do it. How has the soul guided your action, Mark?
Oh, how much time do we have? This is an important lesson for the listeners, is letting your soul guide your action. And that can come to you in many ways. And you got to distinguish between what your ego wants and an impulsive decision. Soul guidance can manifest in many forms. It can come to you in a dream, a precognitive dream. It can come while you're meditating, while you're praying. Now, a lot of times people think prayer and meditation are the same thing, and they employ similar energetic modalities. Praying is when you ask for guidance. Meditation is when you receive the guidance. And it's very important to, when you're letting your soul guide you, ask for signs. Ask for signs, and they will come to you. A lot of times people think that praying, it's like, a wish list for Santa Claus. You go sit on Santa's lap and, hey, I want this and this and this and this, and that's not how this works. Also, there's, what about karma? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. No, that's the laws of physics. Karma doesn't mean there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction. If it were, every time you did something good, something bad would happen. Every time you did something bad, it would be an immediate thing. It's more of a ring of concentric circles in a pond. And that's the same thing with letting your soul guide you. The answer will come to you. It will resonate within you. And I want to make it very clear that nothing spiritual is controlling, and nothing spiritual incites people to commit acts of anger, bigotry, hatred, and violence. Now, this is something I've been on my soapbox for years. It really annoys me when terrorists, kill a bunch of people and do things, and the media refers to the terrorists and their spiritual advisors. No, they have religious advisors. There's a big difference between religion and spirituality, because if these people were spiritual, they wouldn't be killing people and blowing things up. And that is a huge distinction. True spirituality is a connection with the divine energy, and the divine energy doesn't incite us to wage war. And this is Fire and Ice again, or Fire and Water. Sorry, I just saw the Avatar movie Fire and Ice, which has a lot of elements that we're discussing, because James Cameron's a very deep and philosophical person.
Yeah.
His movies and his concepts are just amazing. But the thing is, the fire in this context could be our passion, our ego. It's an instant thing, whereas the water is the calm, the tranquil. But once again, water can be highly destructive. Fire can be highly destructive. It's the balance in between when the two are in absolute harmony. And that is where you'll get your spiritual, your intuitive answers. So it's not an easy or quick thing, but we have to also realize that intuitive messages, it's not Alexa, Gemini, Google, or whatever AI. It is a resonance, and you have to let it flow.
Yeah. I love the way you describe that, because Sherry Duvall, or Duvall, how people pronounce her name, she was the trainer of Golden Temple. She had everything to gain by running that horse in the second race. Ego would drive one to do that. But something about her said no. Soul guidance, whatever it wasn't greed, because winning the Triple Crown is a mega financial booster. But she didn't do it, and neither did the owners. And so for me, when I think about that, that's the soul's journey. I also think about, if we're going to switch it to, where I started the show talking about sports, I think about the leadership behind the team that Magic Johnson was on. You know what Magic Johnson went through and the announcement he made about HIV. He had a rough time at the beginning, but something changed. And that change caused for a global level awareness of HIV and AIDS that had not existed before.
Yeah.
Now, had they not gotten behind him, had there wasn't a shift and a flow, because here is the fourth takeaway: run toward your truth. The Scorpio moon demands absolute honesty, people. It is an intense solar spotlight to cut the ties with outdated habits. That's why Linda's shredding like 17 boxes of things, draining dynamics, and old grudges. And to you all at the WNBA that are hanging on to some kind of grudge about the popularity and the jealousy you might have for Caitlin Clark, get rid of it before it is your demise. It won't be hers. But that's what they did with Magic, didn't they, Mark? I mean, you remember what happened.
I do remember that. And it was, prior to that, famous people that got HIV were in the LGBT community. And it's like, oh, well, and it was really horrible, because I remember hearing people, I used to work with this attorney, and he was an evangelical, and he says, well, God sent this disease to punish gays. And I remember when he said that, I burst out laughing, and he said, why are you laughing at me? I said, because in the medieval era, the Catholic Church said God sent the Black Death to punish Protestants. I mean, come on, stop it with that nonsense. And I said, and if that's the case, then how come in Africa, HIV is more prominent among heterosexual people than homosexual people? Of course, he didn't have any responses for that. But Magic Johnson, here we are, a beloved, a world-renowned and esteemed athlete. And suddenly, the realization came it could happen to anyone. And it finally started bringing attention, and in the way that it needed to be brought. And now, my understanding is HIV is a controllable condition. I've heard it analogized to diabetes. You can take the right medications and keep it under control. That being said, for all our younger listeners and our senior listeners who are, all very randy, that doesn't mean let your guard down and don't be protected. Okay? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Isn't it amazing how these cliche sayings that we heard our whole lives suddenly become very, very not predictable, very profound, very profound. And it's very, very important. So I know I'm going off on a tangent and doing a public service announcement.
No, you're not, because we're talking about something, Mark. First of all, where that end game that you just described, the level of awareness, the shock to really shut the mouths of people that didn't know what they're talking about, that could have went in a whole different direction.
Yes.
Not a good one.
No, and people still need to understand HIV will kill you unless it's dealt with, okay? And the best way to deal with it is to not get it in the first place, okay? So, the precautions are there, the protections are in place. When Dr. Pat and I were younger, so much younger than today, and then HIV came out, it was terrifying.
Oh, man.
Because at first they weren't really sure how you would catch it. I mean, I remember people said they wouldn't use public restrooms because you can get it from a toilet seat, or maybe somebody would sneeze, and all of this. And and then of course the LGBT community was ruthlessly attacked by people. It's kind of like when COVID-19 came out and people in the United States who are of Asian descent were being attacked. Oh, you did this. It's like, are you kidding me? Okay. Are you kidding me? Okay, because somebody's of Asian descent, they were somehow part of some master plan from communist China to infect the world. I mean, see, these things come from fear. And fear is a fire that burns within people, and it consumes and consumes, and the fear leads to anger, bigotry, hatred, violence, and the common sense, the intellectual approach is the calm effect of the water. So here we have again another example of the fire and the water. You know, people are very prone to jumping to conclusions when they're afraid. So when there's a wildfire and it's burning in all directions, people jump to conclusions. But be the water, be the tranquility. Cooler heads prevail. Cooler heads prevail. And you know, we've seen this time and time again in society. And what did the Beatles say? All you need is love. When you start, I remember years ago when I was in law school, we took a trial practice class, and they brought in an acting teacher, and she gave us different scenarios. We had to do different scenes, and she always said, find the love in the scene, no matter how bitter it was. And one scene took place in a Nazi concentration camp. What was the love there? The love of life. And so in when people are acting out of love, and not just self-love, but love for those around you, you'll start seeing people behaving in a more beneficial, kind manner. Dr. Pat, I believe you have a very poignant story.
I do. I want to go through something I learned as young, but I want to end up with the last thing, because in order for us to have the love you want, we have to do this last one. We have to protect our energetic boundaries. You see, I can listen to that Beatles song till I'm sideways, but if I am energetically burned out, I am not hearing a word that song is saying. That's like listening to your preacher or listening to your spiritual person, and somebody asks you what they say, and you're like, I don't have a clue. High passion requires deep rest. You and I cannot do what we're doing in life if we are not laying down for some kind of nap throughout the day. Fiercely guard your personal peace. That's what you were saying, Mark. You got to do that. But love is a two-way street. You must love yourself. You can channel the historic 180-year-old cosmic energy peak without frying your nervous system and everybody's around you. And those are the things that this represents. Now, I do have a little story. And I told you I was writing something that I'm going to start to post about. I didn't know I had it in me. I didn't know I could go back and pull together my knowledge of leadership, my childhood. But here's what I wrote. It came from my dad. I come from a mechanical family. My hands were greasy before they had a pencil in them. It's called the Writer's Promise, Writer, R-I-D-E-R. So there are lessons in life that you can learn, Mark, from the classroom. There are some that you learn in the boardroom. Lord knows you and I have done that. Some are on the playing field. Some are through heartbreak. Some are through triumph. You know, mine began on the back of a Harley Davidson, honestly. Long before I earned a doctorate, before I had thousands of radio shows, long before any of that, long before you and I got together, I spent decades studying leadership trust and the agreements that bind people together. I'm not saying I'm perfect at them. I'm a work in progress, but I learned my first lesson about responsibility from my dad. Now, I must say my dad didn't teach me much, but he did teach me this. He loved motorcycles. He loved anything with an engine in them. He actually built the first trike, one of the first trikes on the planet in 1919 or some year. I grew watching up engines come apart, come back together, parts covered on the floor, tubes filled in the room, mom's living room, too many people, there were machines. To us, they represented something much greater than any of that. It brought us together as a family, Mark.
Right.
To us, they represented freedom, responsibility, trust. And on the day my dad taught me the lesson I never forgot, he said, the moment someone climbs on the back of your motorcycle, their life is in your hands. And he went on to explain something to me. The motorcycle, before it moves, there's a conversation that you have to have with the passenger. Don't fight the bike. This is today's lesson, people. Don't fight the bike. Don't lean against the turn. When we lean together. Hold on. Trust me. Enjoy the ride. It sounds simple, but it's not. Because once that engine starts and you hear that, the rider accepts the responsibility. It can never be transferred. The passenger has chosen to trust. The rider has to protect. This isn't written into law, Mark. There's no contract signed. There's no witnesses required. Yet every experienced rider knows that the promise exists. You don't have to say it. You honor it. I didn't realize from dad then, my dad wasn't teaching me about motorcycles. Hello. He was teaching me about leadership. Years later, my stepmother would teach me another lesson. I couldn't protect myself, but she did. She stood up to the adults that should have known better, Mark. She fought for me when my voice wasn't strong enough to fight. She did it for me. She taught me that leadership is not passive. Leadership steps forward. Leadership protects. Leadership refuses to look away. As I grew older, other remarkable people stepped into my life. Amy Sarah, my junior high school teacher, took me in a room and sat me down. And she said to me, you are different, but you're not less than. My uncle never missed a recital that I had performing pure forms of love. My professors and mentors in my program believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Each one of them did this, not through lectures, Mark, not through actions, not through lectures, but through courage, through actions, and through belief. You know what? Years later, what happened? I spent my career studying leadership. I earned this doctorate. I got it. I found myself returning to the same truth, but not believing it, not understanding it. And I watched the world around me, like you and I talk about. Leadership is about stewardship. Then I watched Caitlin Clark. Like millions, I saw breathtaking talent. Like millions of people, I watched arenas fill, television audiences grow, and an entire sport capture the imagination of a world. But I also saw something else. I saw a rider. I found myself asking one question over and over again. Who out there would understand the promise? Not the promise of winning championships, not the promise of selling tickets, Mark. The promise that every leader accepts when another human being is placed in their future, their dreams, their safety, and their trust in your hands. That question stayed with me a long time in the final buzzard. It followed me through interviews, through research, conversations, through quiet moments when I thought I was all alone. I watched leadership under the brightest spotlight imaginable. And then I watched what happens when leaders make promises and don't keep them. When leaders keep promises, and say that they may break them. But this is history. Every one of us someday will become the rider, Mark. Every one of us someday will become the passenger. The question is not whether that day will come. The question is, when someone trusts you, will you understand the promise you've just accepted?
Wow. That is a really, really good point. When someone trusts you.
And to this day, I go through this lesson. If I'm going to open up a motorcycle and I'm going to start the engine of a Harley or any other bike out there, and someone wants to ride on the bike, I give them this lecture.
Well, on that note, we'll be back next Thursday, which is July 2nd, and it is also World UFO Day. So, all the listeners out there, if you've seen a UFO or who knows, any contact, call in.
We have to have Linda on that show because she has a real experience with her mom.
There we go. All right. Everyone, I'm Mark Anthony, JD Psychic Explorer. This is Dr. Pat Basile. We're the Psychic in the Doc, and we'll be taking your calls next week. And until then, have the balance between your fire and water, and that's the beginning, the first step to inner peace. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Psychic in the Doc with Mark Anthony and me, Dr. Pat Basile, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Hey, look, come back next week so we can explore with you more of life's many challenges and learn from fascinating guests. And you know what? Even Mark and me. We'll connect you and discover insights from people in this life and from the afterlife. Extraordinary problems? Yeah, they do. They require extraordinary solutions. But step into the world of possibilities with us on the Psychic and the Doc. That's every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. That's TransformationTalkRadio.com. And don't forget, we're also live face-to-face on Facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio.